Welcome to the ACS podcast family.
We're your hosts, Angie and Charlene,
where every week you can find new material centered around your life.
Thanks for joining us on our journey. We are super excited to be talking to you about love languages. We're going to link a couple of the books below that you can use this in different areas of your life too.
Very true. You can use it at work. You can use it with your kids. You can use it with your significant other. It comes in handy in all different areas of your life. But we're going to talk a little bit today about what those different languages are. And there's also, if you don't know what your love languages are, I would encourage you to find out, and you can take the love languages test at 5, that's the number 5, lovelanguages.com/profile.
It's awesome. It's like taking a quiz back in the 90s in your like YM or Jane magazine. You get to learn all about who you are and you're like, yes, that is true.
That's exactly what it's like. So we'll go ahead and put that link in the show notes too so that you can just click on it and get there. But definitely recommend taking the love languages quiz if you don't know what your primary love languages are. There are 5 different love languages that the book talks about. We'll go through them quickly. Words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch are the 5 different love languages. So we'll dive in quickly to each one and talk about what might be good activities or good ways to invest into each one of those love languages so that you can put some effort back into your relationship. Relationships are as valuable as the effort that you put into them. And sometimes we don't recognize the effort that somebody might be putting into a relationship. So this can really reset your mind too, to help you recognize where somebody else might be giving to a relationship. Before we dive into words of affirmation, I'll just kind of explain how that might look. When I was married to my ex-husband, he always wanted to give me things. He just wanted to give me things that I didn't want. He wanted to put a remote start in my car. I didn't really care about that. He wanted to put heated windshield washer fluid in my vehicle so that the ice would melt when I tried to defrost my windshield. He wanted to put really bright headlights in so I could see at night. He wanted to make all these modifications to my car. I didn't care about those. I wanted him to help me fix up the house. I wanted him to come in and do the dishes or do the dishes with me, or I wanted him to go spend time with me. And he didn't want to do any of those things. And so we were not speaking the same love language, and I couldn't see what he was contributing. And I look back now after taking this test, after understanding what my love language is and being able to see what his love language is. And just because he wasn't loving me the way that I wanted didn't mean that he wasn't doing the best that he knew how. And being able to recognize that can really put a different spin on your relationship because you're able to focus on those positive aspects and shift your mindset.
Did you ever watch the movie The Breakup?
No. Oh, was that with Jennifer Aniston?
Yes, and Vince Vaughn. So we'll link that too. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. But in there, they're in the midst of their breakup, and she wanted him to want to do the dishes. Yes. And I love that. And he's like, well, I'll just do the dishes. And she's like, I don't want you to do the dishes. I want you to want to do the dishes.
And he's like, why would I want to do the dishes?
Yes. But that is exactly it, is they're not speaking the same love language. And that happens for most people in most relationships.
Right. That our love languages are often very different and we don't recognize them. So starting with words of affirmation, somebody who has this as their primary language.
That's me.
Words are very important. But if it's not somebody's primary language, it might be very difficult for them to express words of affirmation for you.
Right. I am constantly telling my husband, oh, I love that. I'm so proud of you. Good job. I appreciate you. You are such an amazing person. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, crap, I forget that's not what you need.
So is that what you need, or is that just the way that you show love?
I think it's what I need, so then I think other people need it too. You know, that whole I think everybody thinks like I think.
Right.
But they don't.
That's true. However, I find I don't want gifts. I don't want people to give me stuff. Please, please, please do not give me stuff. However, I find myself, I see something and I think of somebody and I'll buy them a gift. And that's how I show love.
Right.
But let me tell you, I can sometimes even get offended if you bring me stuff and I'm like, where am I going to put this? What do I do with it? How do I re-gift it? You know, those are the thoughts that are going through my head because I don't want the stuff. I don't receive that love language well, but that's one of the languages that I speak very fluently in. So I find that to be a little bit fascinating.
That is really fascinating, actually. I never really thought of that. So I guess my words are my giving to people. So, learn something new again.
So let's talk about words of affirmation. If that is your partner's love language, but it is not your primary language and you don't speak in that language, some things that you can do might be keeping a list of all the positive words that you hear so that you can refer back to it and you can use that to express to somebody else.
And I mean, you can even write down all the nice things your partner says to you in a week to kind of help you reflect. Like if this is their love language, like I just said, I'm telling my husband all of these things. Really, I'm looking for him to tell me, I appreciate you. Good job making lunch, you know, those types of things. So keep track of like what the other person is saying, and then you'll know, and you might not.
You might not, but you'll also be able to recognize what is your love language. Is this a language that you're fluent in? Is this a language that you're hearing? Is this a language, if you can't find how your partner is showing you love, by starting to pay attention and pick those things out, you can see what language your partner is speaking in.
Yes, exactly.
Pay close attention to all of the things that your partner does for you that you appreciate too. So talking about keeping a list of everything that they say and writing that down so you can recognize it. You can also keep a list of all the actions that they take. And as they take those actions, if that is the language that is primary for your partner, that they receive well and that they need, that will give you an idea of things that you can appreciate and ways that you can refer back to and things that you can compliment them on. You can also practice intentionally giving your partner one compliment every day until it becomes a habit. And if it doesn't work with your partner, maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's somebody else. And this is really specifically geared towards your partner. So building those relationships, that's something that you should do. But even in mindset, just in general, giving out those compliments is huge. It helps you focus on the good things of other people. Giving out one compliment every day, even if you're uncomfortable starting with your partner, you can do that. But I would say that for words of affirmation, if that's something that's important to your partner, to really make sure that you're focused on finding something every day that is good about what your partner says or does.
I love that. I love thinking about doing that too in the world. You know, maybe your FedEx guy is just spot on, you know, bringing your packages, or he doesn't ring the doorbell because you have a little kid sleeping and he was thoughtful enough to at one point see your kid outside this summer and realizes that he's dropping off during nap time. Like, leave a post-it on the door. Like, you're the best. Thanks for not waking my kid each day, but still delivering my Amazon.
Right. Yes.
Things that'll make somebody else's day just because you can. Words have power.
Words have immense power. Mm-hmm. Thoughts are things.
Yep.
So number 5 on the list for words of affirmation is think about habits and routines that you find yourself in. What is your job in the relationship? What is your partner's job in the relationship? Remember, even though it is routine and it's habit and you do that, you do it every day as part of giving to the relationship. So recognizing that, stepping back and appreciating how somebody is giving to the relationship can be powerful. I know that I do the dishes. Okay, that's really not true. Damon does the dishes more often than I do probably, but I do the dishes in our relationship. So even having him acknowledge and say, thank you for doing the dishes even though that's my quote unquote job in the relationship, it still means a lot and it makes me want to do more of it. So saying thank you for mowing the lawn, or thank you for scrubbing the toilet, thank you for putting the laundry away, whatever those things are, those routine things that have to be done, it can make a big difference just to acknowledge that your partner is doing it and that you notice that they're contributing.
That's huge. It is. So we just had a little get together at our house, and Jason, of course, made the chili because Jason loves to cook. And I did not want to do the dishes. I really did not want to do the dishes. But he took such a big effort into preparing this chili and making everything nice. And like, my job is to do the dishes because I didn't chop those onions. That's not true. I chopped the onions, but I didn't do all of the other things that needed to be done. And it is my job. And I'm not going to lie. It was something I was like longing for, like, say thanks. I washed the pan. So I'm like overly, your chili was the best. You're so awesome. Thanks for making the chili. And I'm like, just say thank you for washing the pan. So just acknowledge the little jobs. I mean, it makes a big difference.
Right. Does. Even when it's your job. And I know I've lived through it. Sometimes it's really hard to do that because they might only be contributing 10% and they should be contributing to the household at 50% or 100%, however you want to say that. They might only be contributing 10%. So it's really frustrating to try to acknowledge that or to try to sit back and think about and be appreciative of the 10%. But let me tell you, if he came back and was suddenly like, oh my God, thank you for washing the pan, would you want to do it again?
Oh, yeah. That's just it. Somebody who feels appreciated does more, even if that's not your love language. If you feel valued and appreciated, you crave that. Every human being does.
Right.
Let's talk about quality time. So if quality time is your love language, you are craving time specifically with that person where your undivided attention is given directly to them with no distractions. So not like when Angie and I first meet and we're both checking off our to-do list, but we're still talking to each other. That's not quality time.
Right. In this world of distractions, in a world of having cell phones, in a world of having the computer in front of us, in a world of instant gratification where you can just turn on Netflix. For somebody whose primary love language is quality time, it can be really challenging when their partner does not have that same love language. That means shutting off all phones, shutting off all computers, and really spending time being present and mindful with what you're doing and having those conversations. For sure.
I know that my cousin is very much like me, to where he wants to, like, if we're sitting there talking, he's probably doing something on his phone, he's cooking, he's doing, like, he's a doer. I'm a doer. Like, it's hard for us to stop and just have that. But his wife is like, hello, I'm right here and we're talking. You don't need to make dinner right now. We'll make dinner together. Let's spend 15 minutes talking right now. And that has been something we've talked about a lot because I can totally understand where he's coming from and able to explain it in words versus, man-splaining of, what do you mean? Talk while I'm cooking. I'm right here. So it's huge if that is your partner's love language that you learn to stop and just be.
Something to keep in mind is not to try to make all of your time quality time. Designate time for planned quality time. We're going to spend 15 minutes looking into each other's eyes, having a conversation. Our phones are going to be in a different room. The computers are going to be off. There's going to be no distractions. But that doesn't mean that all of your time has to be that. If you plan it, that can be very meaningful and it can make your partner feel seen and heard.
Absolutely. So when you're not able to get together with them, also do things like send a picture of yourself. I'm at work and I'm thinking of you. Or send a silly cat meme that says like, I think you're perfect. Something that just says, this is only for you. This is something I just thought of for you. And have that. And if you're like me, all right, Jason, I'm really sorry I'm going to fess this up. I make a list of things that I would want to say at some point, and then I can just send him a random text message because his is quality time. And then I'm like, oh, I just, thought of you and I blah, 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 whatever that random text message is, so that he gets a little piece of quality time when he's not home.
I think that's actually a good thing that you do that. It just means, and it shows that you're putting intention and effort into the relationship. And he doesn't need to know that you do that. When you think about it, you can appreciate somebody that recognizes that's their love language, but it's not my love language. So I'm going to be intentional about speaking their love language so that they can hear it and they feel seen and heard.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better. My random list of 35 loving text messages to send. Maybe we'll put that in a Google Doc, so if you need to send those out, you can have them.
I love that idea. It's great. Create a date night jar is something else that you can do. And Charlene and I have talked about this on previous episodes before. We've talked about our gratitude jar, or I've talked about the fun jar, which is kind of our date night jar, right? Things that you can go out and do together. And it's really fun quality time, spending the time making the date night jar together, putting those things on there. But then when you pull something out of that date night jar, you're also making that quality time a priority.
And then it avoids that, what do you want to do time? What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do?
I don't
want
know.
to do what you want to do, right? Or, my favorite is, and I just read this the other day, where do you want to eat tonight? I don't know how many of you have that argument, but here is the best way to stop it. You say to the other person, guess where we're eating tonight? And when they say, ooh, Minerva's, you're like, yes.
Oh my God, I love that. I'm so going to use that because Damon won't listen to this. So.
Yeah, there you go. So just ask, get it excited, and be like, guess what we're doing? You're right.
How'd you know?
Exactly. We're in the same wavelength.
That's fantastic.
I know. I can't take credit for it. I just read it somewhere, and I don't even know where. The next one is receiving gifts.
And we talked about that very little bit at the beginning, just a smidgen at the beginning, because that is clearly not my love language. I think on the test, I got a big old 0 on that one. I didn't even know you could score 0 in a certain category, but I'm pretty sure I got a 0 there.
Actually, we've talked about this on previous podcasts, too, about receiving gifts. That sometimes by not receiving the gift with gratitude, you're taking away their joy.
Yes. That is true.
That's hard if it's not yours, but you want to make sure that if it's theirs, that you say, okay, and thank you, and appreciate it.
That's true. So it's not my love language. It's not my primary love language, but I do look at it, and there are certain things that I do appreciate getting. And whenever somebody brings it in, I'll put a big smile on my face and say thank you and accept and receive. I like to think gracefully and gratefully. Damon used to bring flowers every 2 weeks for when we first got together for quite a while. I don't even really remember why he stopped doing it, but it doesn't matter. But he used to do that. And at first, my thought was, why is he wasting his money on flowers?
Amen.
What am I going to do with this? I don't really want these flowers. They're just going to die. Why do I want, that almost went through my head.
Well, that goes through my head when my husband was bringing me flowers.
But then, the first time he did it, that's what went through my head. And then I said, wait a minute. As he was walking in the door with them, I stopped myself and I said, wait a minute. He stopped at the store and he thought of me. He's doing something nice for me. He's showing me that he appreciates me and cares about me. So even if I don't want the flowers, I can still appreciate the action behind them.
Right. So I wish that I would have had that epiphany before my husband stopped bringing flowers, because now I'm like, oh, he's not even thinking about me anymore.
But it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Because even though you didn't want the flowers, we can be totally unappreciative of the gift and then all of a sudden go, well, now he's not thinking of me. Where now you recognize that was him thinking of you, but you didn't before.
Right.
So I am really glad that I had that epiphany before Damon even walked in the door, and I stopped the thought process of, I don't want the flowers, because although I didn't, they were still really pretty. They still made my house smell good. they still were him thinking of me. So I had to think of it in a different way. If somebody's gift or somebody's love language is receiving gifts or even giving gifts, if that's part of your love language, like I talked about mine, it's important to recognize that and to be appreciative for what they're doing, even if it is not necessarily the highest thing on your list, because, again, it makes them feel seen and heard. Mm-hmm. If your partner's love language is receiving gifts, and that's not the language that you speak in, because that happens a lot where they're not the same, you can keep a gift idea notebook. And I do kind of do this because I like to have it for Christmas when I hear people say things throughout the year. Oh. And so I'll jot it down in my little notebook. And that way, when it comes to Christmas shopping, I can be like, oh, look at all these ideas I have.
I make my kids do an Amazon wish list. Help your mama out. But that's a great idea.
They won't even always remember the things that you're walking through the store and they stop and pick something up.
Right.
They're not going to remember that. But if their primary love language is receiving gifts, they're going to appreciate the fact that you noticed something that they stopped in the store and looked at. So they say, oh, look at that. Or I'd love to have one of those. Or I have a picture of a pair of shoes on my phone. And I'm not going to buy myself those shoes. But let me tell you, if somebody got those for me as a gift,
right,
I'd probably light up like a Christmas tree.
Right.
They're red. They're impractical. I have no use for them. I don't need more stuff in my closet. So there's a million reasons I can talk myself out of them. But they're really, really cute.
They are really cute. Think about things that you already have in your environment that may symbolize a relationship and offer that as a gift. So things that I mean like that. Maybe you have a picture of your significant other and you on your phone and it was a selfie. Maybe just print it and give it to them. So it's already in your life. They've already seen it, but now they have a physical representation of the two of you in a piece of paper that they can put next to your bed.
That's a great idea.
Or hang on a bulletin board at work.
That's a great idea that they can take to work with them and you're giving them something. Handmade gifts, too. Handmade gifts are huge. I like to do arts and crafts sometimes. And I've made cards, thank you cards or Valentine's Day cards or birthday cards and given those out. And those are seen as a gift. It's something that I put time and effort into and something that is greatly appreciated. Last year, I made a big king-size blanket for Damon for Christmas. And again, I really hope he chooses not to listen to this. But I made that blanket for a very selfish reason because it was big enough for us to share because otherwise the blankets didn't really last over top of both of us all winter long. Mm-hmm. So I made him a blanket. Well, the effort and energy that went into it, and it's his blanket, it's at his house, it's on his bed, it matches his colors. I made it for him so that I could use it too. But is that bad?
No, not at all.
But that's another thing, right? You can find those purposeful gifts that you can hand make, and that is something that won't take a lot of other investment because it's something you'd be doing anyway.
Right. Oh, acts of service. That's another one of my love languages. That's the next one we're going to talk about is acts of service. Doing something you know that your partner would love if you did. For example, I did the dishes when Jason cooked. I was showing him love by doing those dishes. He might not have seen it that way, but I really was. And something he does, he takes my car to get oil changes. Oh, God. Like that. I love you forever for that. So if you're listening, thank you. I really appreciate it. But it's something that I dread doing. And he takes away some of that anxiety and that just smell that gets into my head. I cannot handle the way that a car place smells. And it shows me love by helping me.
Acts of service is my number one love language that I receive in. So I recognize acts of service like that all the time. And so thinking about what is typically your job in the relationship and what is typically your partner's job in the relationship, right? And you would think your car, your oil change, your job.
Right.
But he steps in and does that for you. So what does your partner do? What is their job in the relationship? And how can you step in and do that for them? Not all the time. You don't make it your job. But if they're having a stressful week, if they're having a busy day, if there's a special occasion, what can you do to take that thing that is their job off of their plate?
And think about this with your children too. So my son, for example, knows that this is like my most dreaded job ever, is to go get oil changes. And there was a time where I had to go, and I'm like, I have to go get an oil change. And he's like, do you want me to come with you? Now, partially I think it was kind of selfish because he really loves cars. But at the same time, he was like, do you want to walk down the street and get a cup of coffee and I can stay here and wait? I mean, at that time he was 12. Like, that was amazing. He was showing me love. So then what did I do? I sat in the dealership with him to show him love because he loves to be there and walk around and look at the cars. But think of your children too, because they are paying attention to you. And kids are even way more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not receptive.
Impressionable.
And they notice things way more than you notice things as an adult. They're seeing what happens when you light up, and they're going to be showing you love in the way that you need it. And you won't even realize that you do it. They do it. You're just like, my kids are awesome. They love me. They make me cards. They do things like whatever your love language is. Side tangent.
Totally valid and absolutely true. Other things that you can do for acts of service. Think about what your significant other is passionate about. What are they passionate about, and how can you help them contribute to those passions? Mm-hmm. Or something else that Damon did when we first got together, and he still does it, and I still appreciate when he did it, but it really floored me when we first got together, was he asked my mom out.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Took my mom out to do something. And let me tell you, my parents love him. He's fantastic with my parents. And it's just who he is. It's not like he was trying to make a good impression. It's not like he is trying, being somebody that he's not. Mm-hmm. That's just who he is. But he will still invite my parents to come do stuff with us or to go do whatever. Even without me, he went skiing with my dad and he took my mom out and to go do some of that kind of stuff. So maybe that's something that would mean a lot to your significant other, and something like that, stepping in. What do they care about? What's important to them, and how can you contribute to what's important to them?
And look at him spending quality time with other people that you love. So clearly quality time is probably one of his love languages, that he's building that all the way around you.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Super hugs, Damon. Good job. Bonus points. Should we talk about the last one? This is like the hugest one for me.
Number 5.
It drives me insane. Physical touch. Because physical touch is one of mine. I actually had 3. My last 2 were like a tie in the quiz. Like I had the exact thing. And physical touch does not mean, cover your ears if you're offended when I say the word sex, but it does not mean sex. It just means hugs. It means reaching out when somebody's upset. Like, I have this urge to touch people when they're sad. I have no idea why. I'm just like, oh, come here. I want to pet you. I don't really want to pet you. I just, for whatever reason, need to have that contact with another human being. That a lot of people think that if your primary love language is physical touch, all you want to do is just get it on. It doesn't mean you're in a Marvin Gaye song. Now it's stuck in my head. Let's get it on. So yesterday I was having like a super off day. I ate some food and I knew that I shouldn't have eaten it. And it just throws my body chemistry off. And then I'm kind of sad and depressed and I feel ugh. And I think I asked for a hug like 60 times from Jason. I'm like, can you just hug me? And he did. And it's not just that quick hug. Because if you do the research on hugs have to last at least 20 seconds before you're having any type of reaction to it. So he would just hold me until I'm like, okay, you can go back to watching football now. But I needed that physical touch from him in order to like stabilize my brain.
That's actually really funny because physical touch is higher up on Damon's list. It's fairly low on my list. but I am always the one that is asking him for a hug. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't wait to see him and get that hug. And our extended hugs, I don't do extended hugs with a lot of people, but I do extended hugs with him. And that is one of my favorite things. He hugs the best.
That's awesome. I once got told I hug really good. And I think it's because I don't just let go. But it's selfish. It's more me. Like, I'm like leeching off of your like happy energy at that moment of you're hugging me. And don't just like pat somebody's back. I think a hug is almost like a handshake. You know, you don't want to like shake somebody's hand and it's all like weak. And you don't want to like go in and be like, oh, if you can't see me, my arms are up in the air. And just like, you know, you reach around and you like pat their back. That's for like strangers that you don't know that, I don't know. You have to like embrace them. You have to have your arms around them in order for it to be a hug. Otherwise, it's like a back pat.
Back pat. Got back pat.
Right.
When I got my Life Mastery certification and went and got my coaching stuff, you know, you go to the conference, and one of the first things they do is they talk. You have to give people hugs, lots and lots of hugs all through the certification process. And they talk about doing the heart-to-heart hug because of the exchange of energy. There is a better energetic exchange by hugging heart-to-heart. So I think it's interesting that you're talking about how to get the best energy out of the hugs. And
Right.
So there you go if you don't do that, heart-to-heart hugs.
Right. Yeah, except for Charles, because I've talked about you now twice on here. You hug too hard. Nobody wants to be squeezed to death. I can't breathe. Thank you for hugging me. Let me go. And you can barely get it out. Don't squeeze too hard. No bear hugs. So even touching their arm when talking too. Like if they're talking, just reach over and like just I understand moments. Things like that too, that with physical touch that are super important. It doesn't have to always just be a hug.
It doesn't have to be any specific sort of touch, but just that physical contact to let them know that you recognize that that is their love language. And some people are really opposed to physical touch too. So really examine whether or not that's your partner's love language and think about how you can speak in that language just a little bit more loudly that still helps you be comfortable.
So that is it. That is the 5 different love languages. Don't forget to hit subscribe.
And the journey's not over. Make sure that you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with the latest content and episodes.
We love each and every one of you in our tribe, and we want to celebrate your successes alongside you. Share them with us at ACS Podcast on Facebook.